Hi,
Hi guys, I'm Lyndon Lawson with Proactive Therapy.
and I'm Tori Crone, also with Proactive Therapy. And we decided to bring you guys a webinar because these are really crazy times right now. It feels kind of like a dystopian time, and yet there's a lot of universal things that are happening. A lot of our clients are experiencing the same stressors and struggles of things that they've really never had to deal with. And so, even though things are really bizarre, we're also strangely unified at the same time. So we thought it would make sense to talk to you guys just in an informal way today about some of the struggles that our clients are facing, that you're probably facing, that we're facing. And each time that we meet, we thought we'd talk about a new topic. So a few of the other topics that we're thinking of covering are ideas for self-care, um, ways to deal with uncertainty just around the coronavirus and jobs and everything else that feels uncertain right now. How to stay connected while social distancing. How to stay on an eating regimen, an eating plan if you're struggling with body image or disordered eating issues. And then relationships with partners and with kids and how you maintain those relationships during these times, especially when you're probably working in really close quarters. Anything else, Lyndon, that you feel like your clients are struggling with specifically right now that I didn't mention?
Yeah, I think this week what I'm finding is there's kind of a theme in a lot of my sessions. Like we have a lot of people that just started working from home. And so kind of the theme that I'm hearing this week is people are just kind of feeling off generally with their schedules. And
Mhm.
it's really all over the continuum. I've heard some people who are feel like they're working all the time now that the lines between work and home are kind of blurred and they're really neglecting self-care. And then I've got a lot of people on the other end of the spectrum where they're really having trouble getting started, especially because home doesn't naturally feel like a place where we kind of get up and go. And so I think that lack of structure is really making people feel vulnerable and making it hard to get things done and regulate what they're feeling this week. Have you found
Absolutely.
any of that in your clients as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. The whole range of things. And I think the other thing that people have been talking about, at least a lot today, is kind of this sense of guilt. It's not what we're
Yeah.
going to talk about today, but I think just as something to mention now, guilty feelings around I'm not sick and I'm still have a job potentially, and so I should be grateful. And yet I'm
Mm.
still really anxious and I'm still sad and really overwhelmed. And so we've been talking a lot about the both and being able to kind of hold both of those feelings at once and being willing to know that no, you might not have it the worst that there could be, and it's okay that you're still feeling anxious.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of loss that comes with social distancing, loss of our schedule, our routine, our ability to, our autonomy to go out and do things, connection. And so I think that, even though we can be grateful for our health, that there's still, it makes so much sense that people are struggling this week.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we decided today would be a good day to talk about structure and what that means. And it's going to look different for everyone, as you mentioned. Some people are struggling with over overworking, and some people are struggling with underworking. And so we thought we'd present some tools that would help anyone.
Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about this today too, because it's been something that I've had to focus on for myself, right? As I've kind of done a little bit more work at home, how do I organize that for myself? And that's helped me kind of conceptualize it and translate that to other people. Hmm.
What's that looking like for you, Lyndon, as an overworker
As an
historically?
overworker, lots of scheduling time for self-care and lots of just being much more intentional about what I plan to do in my day, when I plan to do it, where I plan to do it, and scheduling both work and stuff for self-care. I think it's taken a lot more self-management, whereas if I go to work and there's kind of a natural routine, it just comes a little bit more automatically.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of
Yeah.
what
So
I've talked to my clients.
what have you
Go
been
ahead.
doing for your to try and structure that?
Um,
Or encouraging clients to do? Do you have any examples of clients where this has come up and it's been useful for you to talk through it?
Totally. Yeah, so a couple of different things. I mean, so we've talked about like environmental cueing, right? That this concept that our brains get used to doing certain activities in certain places at certain times. And home is not a place where we normally do work. We're kind of wired to want to kick back and relax when we get home. And so I've been talking to people about trying to create like a space, even if that's just a really small corner of their home that they dedicate to work. So their mind can start to kind of click over and associate that with this is my workspace, here's where I'm on task. And
Okay,
then
so
having a separate space where people relax so that their brain can start to associate that with now I'm off work and this is where I unwind a little bit.
oh, that's really interesting. It's kind of the same idea as we talk to people about not bringing your phone into bed because
Yes.
you might be confused and it takes maybe 20 minutes to move from one thing to the next. So how can we really go straight from being on our phones to sleeping?
Yeah. That's been hard for me too. I live in, a smaller apartment. And so for me, it's been just a corner of one room. But even that psychologically has helped me as soon as I move out of that space to kind of shift gears and know that now I'm, cueing myself to relax a little
Interesting.
bit. Yeah, absolutely. Have you found a good work from home space?
Yeah, I'm in the office right now, so I'm lucky to have a sort of
Mhm.
separation, but my husband and I are both working from home, so we've been trying to take turns. When is a time when you really need the office versus another room? So we've had to be really mindful and proactive in terms of creating schedules the night before and saying, okay, 11
Totally.
o'clock, I've got a client session, so I'll need the office, and then 12 o'clock, you've got a team meeting, so you use the office, and we're kind of back
Back and
piggybacking.
forth. Yeah, totally. But I think as long as there's one or two spaces where our minds can kind of start to learn that association of, okay, now we're in work mode, that helps a lot to just
Yeah.
kind of work with our own biology.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. The other thing I found too is just, it's so interesting when you go to the office, there's all these natural cues, right? Work starts at a certain time. Everyone gets up to go to lunch at a certain time. People
Uh-huh.
usually get up and take a 2 p.m. break at a certain time. So you're watching kind of all these environmental cues of when we kind of go through our routine. And we don't really have that when we're here kind of working at
Right.
home. There's no
Yeah.
lunch bell that goes off. There's no, signal in my environment that says it's time to take a break. And so for me, as kind of a person who gets lost into work easily, I've even
Mm,
started setting phone reminders to go off and tell me it's lunchtime or it's snack time or, um,
such a good idea.
meeting reminders.
Such a good
Hmm.
idea. Yeah. And I wonder, especially for our clients with eating disorders, if that's something they need to be really mindful of, not having those external cues of it's lunchtime, people are bringing in their takeouts coming, people are leaving the
Totally.
office and saying, let's go grab a sandwich. Now I have to set a reminder to do that,
Hmm.
especially if their internal hunger cues aren't telling them to do that.
Yeah. And I think there's a theme here of just trying to live with intention, right? It's really easy to kind of float through our day when we're at home, which is totally okay to do on weekends when we're home
Right.
alone. But when we're trying to be productive at home, we have to kind of do a bit more self-management and a lot more intention setting to make sure that we're getting things done.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know there's kind of this almost a snow day feeling around it in the
Yes.
summer. Oh, I'll stay in
Totally.
my pajamas and just kind of hole up. But I think if we are, if we forget to get dressed or if we push that later and later, that can really set the tone for our day too. So that might be something for us all to keep in mind is just setting your alarm for the normal time that you would during a normal work week, even if you don't need as much time to commute and being able to get up, take your shower, eat your breakfast, get dressed, all of those things, just like you would any other day.
Absolutely. It's interesting, and that's more of that environmental cueing, right? Once you've brushed your teeth and showered and you've had breakfast, your mind is starting to kind of prepare for work mode, that we associate these things in our routine with what we do next.
Yeah.
I've also been thinking about like it seems like the transition spaces are most difficult. Once people get into work, they're okay, and once people get into relaxing, they're okay. But it's like how do we make that transition when we're not physically transitioning from work to the workspace. And so, what I've really talked to my clients about doing too is trying to come up with, kind of blocks of time and scheduling those blocks of time. So if they've got an hour of work, picking one task that they're going to devote 15 to 25 minutes to and set a timer and just knock that out in that amount of time. And if anything else pops up on their screen, or if they have another idea, maybe jotting it down, but still staying this kind of one mindful focus on what we're doing. And, they can take 5-minute breaks in between each of those blocks. And maybe even a longer break at the end of the hour if they've done about 4 of those blocks to get some rest and relaxation. But for people that really are feeling paralyzed, having just a small block of time like that, 25 minutes of focused energy, feels way more manageable than thinking about starting an entire workday from home, or as I'm hearing from other clients, thinking into the future about how long this is going to be and conceptualizing every workday for the next few weeks to months.
Right. As a total aside with that, one thing some clients have mentioned to me is that when they're working, these other thoughts are coming up, and this is more for a future webinar that we'll do, but sort of how do I deal with these thoughts while I'm trying to stay focused? And one thing I'm recommending is keep a worry list, separate from the other stuff you're doing. Jot down the worry. You can worry about that later. But just something to make sure you're staying focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can go more into that next time.
Yeah, but that's helpful. And that's something that I do in my daily routine too. If I have an hour of free time, I'm thinking about how to break what I need to do down into 4 25-minute tasks and stretching in between each of those blocks, and maybe taking 5 minutes to kind of breathe at the end of the hour, and makes it just seem so much more manageable when we're looking at 25 minutes versus a full work day.
Right. Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Do you have any sense too? I think that some of the other challenges that I find clients struggling with is prioritizing too, when they don't have people popping into their cubicle with a task, or workflows and setups may look really different right now too, and it can be challenging, right, if you're home and the dishwasher ends, to kind of almost get pulled back into life tasks versus work tasks. So
for sure.
Have you had clients that are also struggling with this kind of prioritization, and what have you been doing with them?
For sure. And what I'm doing is really what I do for myself. And I've had to use this method in the past, but now I'm doing it a whole lot more. I think it's particularly helpful right now. It's called the 15-minute planner method. So it's something, I actually got some visuals for us. And I went to, you're going to laugh at me, but I went to the beach this morning, and that was my self-care. So I'll explain what this is in a minute. But I went to the beach to go get sand, and it was a really fun part of my day. Actually, it was funny because this guy saw me putting sand in the bucket, and he's like, "What are you doing with that?" And I was like, "I'm hoarding it. I'm afraid there isn't going to be enough of it," which was total aside.
But it was nice to get outside too and have a minute to yourself as well, out in nature instead of in your home.
It was actually really nice, and there weren't many people down there, and so it just felt like a very peaceful start to my day. But I got us these because I thought you might ask me about my organizational structure right now, since that's what we've been talking about. So when you look at this jar of sand, I want you to tell me if you think that I could fit anything else in it.
No, I don't think so. It looks pretty full.
Pretty full to the brim. So I've got rocks over here, and you can see it's too full. I can't add anything else.
Right.
So I've also got a jar that's filled with rocks and some pebbles there. And so this is also pretty full. The rocks are to the top, but I want you to tell me if you think I could fit anything else in here.
I mean, probably between like the crevices and stuff. Maybe a little.
Yeah. So what's cool is that even when it looks like it's really full, you can still dump additional sand around there. And so I have an extra entire jar here. Yeah. And you might not realize it, but it was able to fit around there. So this might seem totally off topic, but it's a visual demonstration of my planning method. So, and I did not create this myself, and we'll link to, who did. But the idea is basically that we want to prioritize our tasks in the day based on whether they're a rock, a pebble, or a sand. And
Okay.
so what most people do is they start with their sand. And sand is things like the administrative tasks of our lives, the chores, it's emails, and it's social media. And a lot of us get so caught up in this that takes up our whole day. And then there's not room for anything else, which would be the rocks. The rocks are the most important things in our day. They're really the things that we need to prioritize and we want to prioritize. A lot of them are values based. So things that are set meetings, client meetings for me, team meetings.
Could it be like a yoga practice for me, for somebody that works too? Could it be a yoga practice for me if I tend to work too hard? Okay, great.
Yeah, no, and that's really important. For other people that might not be, but for you, for me, it might be that a yoga practice is a rock.
Great.
And so what we know is that if we put the rocks in first, and then we add the pebbles, and I'll talk about the pebbles in a minute, then there's actually still room for the sand. The sand just has to fit around the rocks and the pebbles, which are the things that we want to prioritize. So you'll find that you still have room for all those things, but you first need to make sure that you're doing the rocks. So what I do is I start with, and I made this file attachment in the webinar. So for our viewers, they can go to the handouts area. Do you see that, Lyndon?
Yeah, so it's on the floating menu, and if you go down, it's about the second to last drop down menu on the list there.
Yeah, so if you're able to, you might want to pull that up now. Basically what I do is I'll spend time on a Sunday night and I'll do this. It'll take me 15 minutes, but I'll do sort of a brain dump where I write out every single thing that I need to do the coming week or that I want to do in the coming week. So examples that I have on that list that you'll see there are, I had my therapy sessions with clients, team meeting, grocery store, calling a friend of mine, ordering new supplies for the office, signing my son up for his next session of his class, some household repair things, yoga. So these are some of the things even during this week that I feel like I can still do from home. So then what I do is after I have the brain dump and I write out everything that I could do, I will do asterisks on the things that are the sand, the more administrative chore type things. And then I'll circle the rocks. And you can do whatever system works for you. And then what I'll do is I'll go through the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, written out on the left side of the page. You'll see that there. And I start with the rocks and I pencil those in based on the times when they're already scheduled for or when I want to schedule them for. So if I have a client meeting, I'll put that in, 12, 2, 3, 5. And then if I have calling a friend, which is a rock for me this week, I put that in at 1 o'clock. Then maybe grocery store is at 10 a.m., whatever. So then from there, I leave time. And as long as those are blacked out, then I can get to the sand throughout the day. And I did it today, and it was so helpful because I had kind of stopped doing this as much. But today I had everything scheduled out. I realized pretty much all my hours were booked up, but then I still had time in between those times to check my email, to do the little things I needed to get done.
I love that too, because I think I've done similar things with my schedule, and I notice that anytime that I don't, I always get lost in the bog that is emails. Like it's funny how quickly that can pull your focus, especially if you're working on something and the notification comes up. You can get pulled into that and you can stay there for a really long time. And when you're focused on the sands like that, you end up missing the bigger rock. So I agree. Since I've been home too, it's been a lot more planning and self-management because it is the sand is what pulls our attention. Social media and emails, all those things pop up on our screen, and before you know it, you could be off track.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, there's normally environmental cueing that lets us know what we should be doing. Even
Yes.
things like taking a train at a certain time, that's that's part of the schedule for us. It's part of our routine. And when we're not in that routine, we have to actually account for that time. Otherwise, it's so normal to just end up on your computer all day or
Mhm.
doing whatever else.
I feel like that's so validating too, because a lot of the clients that I've talked to this week are, I think, feeling a lot of shame about this, right? That I've had all day, why can't I just get stuff done? And I don't think everybody really appreciates how hard it is to self-manage when we don't have environmental cues, when we don't have accountability during the day, when we're not in a place that cues us to be into work mode. It's really, really, really hard. And I think everyone is struggling with it. And I say that just because I think we could all use a little self-compassion this week, that this has been a pretty jarring transition, and we're all doing the best that we can, and we may have to pull out some new strategies.
That's right, absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think, um, it's not just that we're out of our usual routine, but there's all the added anxiety and stress of the
Yes.
coronavirus. And so some people are tempted to do all kinds of different things with those feelings. And again, that's going to be another webinar topic. But, um, even checking the news or just wanting to stay informed and feeling like you want to do something to help with your anxiety in the moment is going to make it extra hard to keep any kind of structure to your day. So,
Ends up being a
absolutely.
lot of sand for people, I think, to go on and check the news and get the latest
Yeah,
updates. And especially if you're subscribed to any of those things that give you the moment to moment updates, as soon as that goes off, it can be really hard to get pulled back into the sand.
absolutely. So
Maybe
we
even
get,
selectively turning off our notifications during the day
mhm,
would be another great environmental cue to give people some structure.
yeah. And I have a lot of clients who are deciding that they want to just forego social media right now because it's just kind of
Mhm.
bombarding them with
Yeah,
everything. Even if it's positive things, it's too much right
I
now.
agree.
So
Mhm.
anyway, we hope this was helpful. Um, and
Yes,
let's do it again soon.
absolutely. And we'll be practicing what we preach this week too, trying to stay organized and make sure that we're here showing up for you every week.
Yeah, and we're offering virtual sessions now to all our clients. So if you feel like you need extra support during this time, we're available. We want to help.
Absolutely.
And if people want to suggest future topics, things that they're struggling with, they can email either of us. My email is Tori, Tory, at proactive-therapy.com.
Yep. And mine is Linden, Lindan, at proactive-therapy.com.
All right. So um, we'll look forward to talking with y'all soon. Thanks, Lyndon.
Bye.
Bye.